he staggered about on his chariot, the Rakshasa was showered with rocks and trees by the monkeys. The demon was reduced to a sorry plight, being unable to lift his bow or do anything in his defense. He sank down on the floor of his chariot. Seeing this, his charioteer veered away from the fight and retreated. Ravana remained stunned for some time. Gradually returning to his senses, he saw that his charioteer had taken him away from the battlefield. He immediately chastised the charioteer with harsh words. "How have you disdained me in this way, O evil-minded one? Obviously considering me to be bereft of power, heroism, and prowess, you have covered me with shame. Today you have nullified my valor, my dignity, my fame. While my enemy stood expectantly before me, deserving to be gratified by my arrows, you have made me into a coward." Oh, Ravana is not happy. Ravana was beside himself with fury. He accused the charioteer of aiding with the enemy, and he ordered him to return immediately to Ram's presence. The charioteer replied that he had only done what he felt was his proper duty. Then Ravana had been completely overpowered by Ram's weapons. Out of affection, he had desired to save his master's life. And citing verses from Scripture supporting his actions, the charioteer begged Ravana's forgiveness. Then the demon king was appeased. He nodded at his charioteer and he commanded him to return with all speed to the fight. Urged on by Ravan, the charioteer lashed his horses, and within a few moments, the charioteer stood again before Ram. On the battlefield, Ram was himself expressing his exhaustion from the fight. In the heavens, the great Rishi, Agastya, saw this, and he desired to assist him. So he now descended to Ram's chariot and spoke to him, "O mighty-armed Ram, please listen as I tell you the secret of a highly confidential prayer, the Aditya Hridaya. This prayer will invoke the powerful spiritual energy from the heart of the sun. And this is the very effulgence of the Supreme Vishnu himself. With this power, one can overcome any obstacle and destroy to the roots all one's enemies." Now Agastya instructed Ram how to recite the prayer, which would summon the combined power of all the gods emanating from the bodily rays of Vishnu. With that power, Ram would be able to quickly overcome Ravana before nightfall. And when the demon's own power would be doubled, because at the nightfall, the demon's power doubles. Now in the heavens, the sun god stood in person amid the other gods, and he uttered benedictions upon Ram, saying, "May victory attend you." Ram saw Ravana's chariot flying toward him, filling all quarters with its thunderous rumbling. That chariot was drawn by huge black steeds with the heads of hideous fiends, not horses' heads, fiend heads. It shone with a dreadful luster, and it was adorned all over with brilliant rubies, celestial sapphires, rows of pennants flying from its sides. Moving rapidly through space, it looked like a cloud containing streams of shining water and issuing forth torrents in the form of arrows. Ram said to Matali, "From the way in which he is darting back into the fray, it appears that this Rakshasa is bent upon his own destruction. Close upon him with care. I shall destroy his chariot even as the wind would blow away a cloud." Now, grasping Indra's bow, Ram tempered his anger with patience as he awaited his opportunity to attack the demon who was maneuvering on the battlefield. And Matali skillfully drove the chariot in circles, and he gradually closed on Ravana. The two opponents were releasing streams of arrows and appearing like two proud lions intent on killing each other. Now suddenly, many frightful omens appeared. Blood rained down on Ravana's chariot, while violent whirlwinds tossed it about. A flock of vultures circled over the demon. In the distance, Lanka was shrouded in a red glow. Great meteors fell from the sky. The earth shook. The sky became darkened even while the sun shone. Terrible, terrible thunderbolts and flashes of lightning fell upon the Rakshasa army. Ravana's steeds shed hot tears and emitted sparks from their mouths. And around Ram were seen many favorable signs that portended his imminent victory. The sun illuminated him brilliantly, and a gentle breeze blew behind him. He felt his right eye and his arm throb, and his mind felt joyful. And as Ram and Ravana met in fearful combat, the two armies stood motionless with their weapons held fast in their hands. Now observing the man and the demon engaged in a desperate duel, all the warriors, along with the gods, the Gandharvas, the rishis, they watched in wonderment. The two belligerent opponents each exhibited their full prowess on the battlefield as they hurled blazing weapons at each other. Ram fitted a highly sharpened shaft to his bow, as irresistible as a thunderbolt, and shining with splendor. Now drawing back his bow to a full circle, he released the arrow at Ravana's standard. It severed the tall pole, and the demon's ensign fluttered to the ground. Ravana burned with indignation. He sent a hail of flaming steel arrows at Ram's steeds. Struck by the arrows, the celestial horses neither flinched nor shook, but continued to draw the great chariot, describing various circles and movements and baffling Ravana's arrows. The demon fired a tremendous shower of maces, iron clubs, discuses, mallets, as well as mountain peaks, trees, pikes, double-headed axes. At the same time, he released tremendous volleys of arrows, which fell toward Ram's chariot like streaks of golden lightning. Now I ask you all a question. Who's winning at this stage? Are you sure? Who's winning? Okay, we will see. We will soon find out. Yes. Because they're both showering so many weapons. Now, by Matali's expert handling, Indra's chariot constantly foiled Ravana's weapons. None of the weapons could touch the chariot. The Rakshasa became more and more infuriated, and he directed his mystic missiles upon the army of monkeys. And seeing this, Ram fitted celestial weapons to his bow, which sent innumerable arrows into the sky. And those arrows fell upon Ravana's weapons and smashed them to pieces. No arrow shot by Ram failed to find its mark. The sky was completely filled with his golden plumed shafts. The missiles of the two fighters met together in hundreds and thousands. They created explosions of fire and billows of smoke across the whole battlefield. Ram and Ravana fought vehemently for hours without interruption, and exchanging blow for blow. Neither felt wearied nor inclined to give an inch to the other. Those observing the fight felt their hairs standing on end. no one could take their eyes off the furious fighters as they battled on, relentlessly seeking victory. Ravana sent 20, then 60, then 100, then 1,000 arrows at Ram, aiming at his vital parts, or seeking to kill the charioteer and his horses. And Ram responded with twice that number of digging shafts into Ravana's steeds and charioteer, while at the same time constantly covering the demon. Shri Ram Chandra Bhagavan ki. Even after fighting for half a day, neither seemed to have the upper hand. So who's winning? We don't know yet. Now Ravana composed himself and once again invoked the Rakshasa Astra, imbuing it with all his mystic potency. Immediately the air was filled with a thick shower of every kind of weapon, and the entire globe seemed to shake. The ocean became agitated. Serpents and devils appeared screaming in the sky and emitting fire from their mouths. The sun lost its brilliance and the wind ceased to blow. In the heavens, the gods themselves became fearful and they cried out, "May all be well with the worlds!" And with full concentration, Ram again invoked the Gandharva Astra, which caused hundreds of thousands of arrows to appear and to counter Ravana's weapons. Those awful and demoniac missiles fell to the ground and they burned up, being pierced by Ram's fiery shafts. The battle between Ram and Ravana could only be compared to itself. Such a fight had never been seen at any time, even by the gods. They watched anxiously as Ram came under repeated ferocious attacks from the Lord of the Rakshasas, and Ram remained calm. He took from his bow a great razor-headed arrow that resembled a venomous serpent. In an instant he fitted into 10. He divided into 10, and he tore off that one arrow, divided into 10, and tore off the demons' heads. But they immediately grew back again. Ah! Then Ram sent another weapon, which again severed the Rakshasas' heads, and again they grew back. This is a problem. But is it really a problem for Ram? No. Ram struck down 100 heads, but the demon remained standing. And without showing his attack for even a moment, without slowing his attack for even a moment, Ram contemplated this wonderful phenomenon. How was this demon to be killed? No weapon seemed able to take his life. It looked like the fight might go on forever. Now, Vibhishan, the brother of Ram, who had become Ram's ally, brother of Ravana, who had become the ally of Ram. Now, Vibhishan quickly approached Ram. He told him that the demon had a boon from Brahma, that his heads and his arms could never be destroyed. In Ravan's heart was a store of celestial nectar which renewed the life in his body. Get that? What's in his heart? A store of what? Celestial nectar. And it immediately brings his parts of his body back. The only way to kill him was to strike at his heart with a divine weapon that could dry up the nectar. As Ram considered his next move, all the while raining arrows upon Ravana, Matali turned to Ram and spoke, "O Ram, the time for this one's death has come. Recall now the prayers Agastya told you. Agastya also gave you an arrow when you were in the forest, imbue that arrow with the force of the Brahmastra and kill the demon by piercing his heart. Now accepting Matali's advice, Ram remembered the celestial arrow which Agastya had given him long ago in the forest. At once it appeared in his hand. He fitted it to his bow. Its shaft was made of ether, and its weight consisted of the Mandara and the Meru mountains. That's pretty amazing combination. The shaft is made of ether, and the weight is like Mandara and Meru mountains. The wind god presided over its shaft, the fire god over its plumes, and the sun god was installed at its point. It looked like the rod of universal destruction wielded by the time spirit himself. Ram again chanted the Aditya Hriday prayer, and then he invoked the infallible Brahmastra. Are you ready? Are you ready to hear what happened next? Start the drum rolls. Slowly and softly. But more, so we can hear it. As Ram drew back the arrow, he shone so brilliantly that no one could look at him. He released the weapon and it flew at Ravan, lighting up the earth and sky, roaring like a tumultuous ocean. It struck the demon on his chest, even as he stood firing his own weapons at Ram, piercing right through his heart. The arrow emerged from Ravan's body, soaked in blood, and the arrow entered the earth. Ravana whirled around. He let out a cry which seemed to shake the entire creation. His bow dropped from his hands, and he fell from his chariot like a mountain struck down by Indra's thunderbolt. Jai Shri Ram Chandra! Now all the Rakshasas, they fled, panic-stricken in every direction. They shed tears of grief on seeing their lord slain. The monkeys leapt about, chasing the fleeing Rakshasas and shouting with joy. Jai Hanuman Ji ki! Then the sound of drums and other celestial instruments sounded from the sky. Delightful breezes blew on the battlefield carrying heavenly odors. A dazzling shower of brilliant flowers fell from the sky and covered Ram's chariot. The gods and the rishis praised Ram, who stood blazing with splendor. The battle was over. Ram climbed down from the chariot. He was surrounded by Lakshman, Sugriva, Hanuman, Angada, Jambavan, and Vibhishan, who all praised and cheered him for his incredible feat. Jai Ram Chandra Bhagavan ki. And then Vibhishan, as he gazed upon his brother's dead body, he began to lament. Alas, O Ravan, how have you been killed? After displaying your power for a long time, you now lie motionless with your brilliant diadem thrown off. The very fate which I predicted has come to pass. Why did you not heed my counsel that was meant always for your good? Overcome by lust, greed, and anger, you have met the sure result of harboring these three mortal enemies of the soul. O my brother, now that you have been slain, everything seems void. The sun has fallen to the earth, the moon has merged in darkness, and fire does not emit flames, and all energy has become bereft of effort. All of Lanka is lost. So, although shunned by Ravana, Vibhishan had loved his brother and had always desired his welfare. and he fell by his side, continued to cry out. Ram approached him. He placed an arm around him, consoling him with soft words. Your brother has died a hero's death. No hero has ever been known to be always victorious. Sooner or later, a warrior will die at the edge of the weapons. This is the end sought by all good fighters. O Vibhishan, there is no need to mourn for Ravana, for his death was glorious. Then Lakshman also consoled the grief-stricken Vibhishan by telling him all spiritual truths. And although Ravana's body had fallen, his soul remained alive. Indeed, having been purified by Ram's weapons and by his death in battle, he would surely have attained an exalted destination. There was no gain in lamenting over a corpse once the soul has departed. Vibhishan should now perform the last rites for his brother and then assume the rulership of Lanka. So like this, and then came the wives, all of Ravana's wives, and suddenly they appeared there crying like female elephants. They fell upon their husband's body and they bathed him with tears. Dozens of Rakshashis, their hair and garments in disarray, surrounded the fallen Rakshasa. They rolled on the ground and they wailed in agony. Ravana's principal wife, Mandodari, was at their head. She swooned upon seeing her husband dead on the battlefield. And after regaining her senses, she gazed upon his face and lamented loudly, her voice choked with tears. Then she said, Alas, my lord, how have you fallen at the hands of a man? Because Ravana is a demon. He's a Rakshasa. Rakshasas are super powerful. Humans are not, in comparison. But Ram, because actually Ravana was cursed that he would be killed by a man, not by a Rakshasa. So therefore Ravana performed that function. Rama performed that function. So Mandodari said to him, How have you fallen at the hands of a man? You, who struck terror into the hearts of the gods, the Gandharvas, the Siddhas, even great rishis. Now you lie, being killed here by a mere mortal who came walking from Ayodhya, a city of humans. I do not consider Ram to be an ordinary man. He must surely be Vishnu, the sustainer of all the worlds, the unborn, the inconceivable and all-powerful Supreme Person. None other could have laid you low. So in this way, this chapter is almost finished. But as we know, came the time for the reunion of Ram and Sita. And that was one of the most emotional moments of the Ramayana. And there Ram came and found her being led by Hanuman. And there she was, sitting alone in that garden. And at that time, Lord Ram, because he's going to be king, he has to act as a king. And he cannot be with any wife or any woman who has some question, if there's a question, whether or not, because she was, for 1 year, she was in the custody of Ravana. So Ram understood that she has to prove her chastity. She has to prove her purity. So then what happened? Then a fire was built. And Agni Dev himself, he was blazing in the form of the flames of that fire. And Sita Devi entered into the blazing flames of this fire. And a moment later, she came out being carried by who? Agni. And she was placed there. And now everyone knew that Sita Devi was absolutely, completely pure. Of course, we devotees know that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had also solved the question, how could it be possible that Sita Devi was kidnapped by a demon? But there is one Shastra that Mahaprabhu found in South India, and in that Shastra it's telling that actually it was a Maya Sita. It was an illusory form that was formed and shaped like Sita. And the real Sita remained incognito, not seen by anyone, in another prakost. And now, when that Maya Sita came out of the flames, then now everyone understood. So Sita Devi is completely pure. So that was real Sita. Okay. And in this way, now the journey back to Ayodhya started. And there was a huge, gigantic airship that came there to bring them all to Ayodhya, which was hundreds of miles away. And they began to board the plane, and there was a throne in the plane, a big, huge airplane. And this plane, it had that it could become as big as required. No matter how many passengers came aboard, it could carry unlimited numbers. And also, no matter how few, it could also become smaller. So now, the plane took off, and Sita Ram were seated together. Lakshman, Hanuman, Sugriva, the bear, Jambavan, yes, Jambavan. And in this way, all the monkey warriors, they came. And then as they passed over the forest, all the monkey wives, the plane came down and they all came on, and there were millions of monkeys. So the plane just expanded. And now as they were flying further, then Lord Ram was pointing out, you see, Sita? You see, that's the place where we spent so many years when we were wandering like this. This happened there, and this happened there. Finally they came to Ayodhya. And outside of the city, that plane came down. And then a messenger was sent. You know who the messenger was? The messenger was sent to Bharat. And it was Hanuman disguised as a Brahmana. Hanuman can also change his form. And when that Brahmana came there to the palace, and Bharat was there, the Brahman announced immediately, I have come to inform you, Ram has now come, Ram has returned to Ayodhya. And like Bharat came back to life. And he became so excited, and he became so emotional. And he began to say, I want to give you 18,000 cows, my dear Brahmana, and so much charity and this and that. But nothing amount can ever repay you for giving me this news, that Ram has come. And then, now Bharat came, and all the palace, all the royalty came, and now all the citizens came, and Bharat led the way there, holding the shoes of Ram. And what an emotional meeting when Bharat came. And Ram and Bharat both, they were weeping, and Ram embraced Bharat. Bharat was become so thin. He was barely eating for the whole 14 years. He was just wearing the most austere loincloth and like even deerskin. And he would never sit on the throne, but he worshipped the shoes of Lord Ram, who had given him his shoes when he first left for the forest. And so now, again, they're reunited. And so, the beautiful story of the Ramayana, it comes to this conclusion that it was not the end of the suffering. There was another incident, actually two more very important incidences, but I don't know, time has gone. Huh? You don't want to? Yeah. Anyway, it's all joyful. All of the Ramayana is joyful. Why? Because it's the pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And how Ram concluded his pastimes, that was also a very special pastime. And our Gurudev told that pastime, especially here, At Navadvip, he told that pastime and everybody was weeping and weeping. And when Sita Devi, I'm not telling the details, but when she was brought into the earth by Prithvi Devi herself, and then the earth closed, and now Ram took his arrows and pointed at the earth, "You give my Sita back." Then Brahma had to come and say, "My Lord, your pastimes are now finished. Sita is waiting for you there in the eternal abode. Now you go return back." Amazing. So on this day, we have tried in some very inadequate and small and paltry way to do justice to this glorious day of Ram Navami by reading directly from the Ramayana and trying to recollect these pastimes. But our Gurudev is really the one who gets all of the credit, because he really introduced us to all the essential elements of the Ramayana and the stories, especially the separation stories in the Ramayana. So on this day, I'm bowing down at the lotus feet of Srila Gurudev, Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj, to my Gurudev, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada, to all of my Sri Rupanuga Guru Varga, to Srila Bhakti Balabhatirtha Goswami Maharaj, his appearance day. And I'm bowing down to all of Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu's eternal associates, his Dham, his Nitya Parikar, and to Radha and Krishna in their eternal abode of Sri Sri Vrindavan Dham, and this glorious Navadvip Dham, praying that we can always be here in Navadvip Dham, and we can continue to completely immerse ourselves in the pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Sri Radha and Krishna, Sri Ram, all of his incarnations and his expansions. And on this Ram Navami day, we pray that Lord Ram will also be situated in our heart, because we know that he is actually the expansion of our Ishtadev. And who is our Ishtadev? Radha Govinda. So he is non-different. So on Ram Navami day, with full knowledge that Lord Ram is actually Krishna, and he is performing this pastime for the benefit of all the whole universe. So we conclude our discussion today. Vancha kalpatarubhascha kripa sindhubheva patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Shri Ramachandra Bhagavan ki jai. Shri Ram Navami Mahamahotsav Titi ki jai. Transcendental appearance day of Shri Ramchandra Bhagavan ki jai. Jai Ram Lakshman Sita Ram Lakshman Hanuman Ji ki jai. Jai Jai Shri Hanuman Ji ki jai. Jai Monkey Soldiers ki jai. And Ravana for being killed by Ram ki jai. Because actually he's a great devotee. And he came in that form to perform this wonderful pastime. And that's a whole nother story. Gaur Premanande. Some short Mahamantra. Or maybe Sitaram, or whatever you like. Short. Raghupati Ram Raja Ram. Bhagavan ki Ram Navami Mahamahotsav ki Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki Srimad Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki Navadvip Dhama ki Nitai Gaur Premanande Vrindai Tulsi Devai Priyai Keshavasya Cha Krishna Bhakti Pramidevi Satyavachai Namo Namah Pancha Kavadurubhascha Kriga Sindhu Bevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah
Srimad Bhaktivedanta Padmanabha Maharaj
Deva Ki Jai Shri Prabhupada Ki
You know, this has been going on for many hours, and I never charged it. Like for days, I never charged it. Like on Navadvip Circle, I didn't charge it.
4 hours will just now.
Yeah, like for 3 days of curriculum, I didn't charge it. Because this has a really good battery. Anyways,
It's so small.
I was really worried because I forgot to charge it, and then I was like, oh god, is it going to run out? But